Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's special interest webinar from the Blake Admissions Office. This one, of course, is Life After Blake, a chance to meet and hear from several of our alums. And although, of course, we wish we were doing admission events in person, doing virtual events this year, or at least the early part of this year, gives us the opportunity to do an event like this, where folks from all over the country are zooming in and being part of this great panel presentation. So I am Joe Silvestri. I am the Director of Admissions and Financial Assistance at Blake. It is my privilege to be the host of this event and to formally welcome you. So great to have you all here, and I know that you will all enjoy this conversation about life after Blake from the perspective of Blake alums. I'm going to ask, the event is going to unfold this way. So we'll do brief introductions right up front. And then I will offer a brief overview of the school, just so that everyone has a basic foundation about what Blake is today. And then I will turn the program over to our moderator, Dion Cruchon, who will work with our panel of other alums to help you learn more about Blake. They will talk about their experiences at Blake and after Blake. And then the bulk of today's webinar will be questions and answers from you, the attendees. So let me start by asking our panel participants to introduce themselves, starting with Diane, then we'll go on to Cameron, Katie, Will, and Zach. So Diane, say hello.
Hello, everyone. This is Diane Cruchon. I am an alum as well, but today I will be serving as a moderator. I'm happy to be here, and I will hope to field some questions from our audience.
Terrific.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cameron Downey. I am Blake class of 2017, and as of recently, I am in my senior year of school at Columbia University in New York. But right now, obviously, if you can't tell, like, I'm at home learning remotely, trying to make the most of it. And I am doing a double concentration in visual art and environmental science.
Hi, I'm Katie Goldstein. I'm class of 2004. I am also a parent of a kindergartner and a first grader at the Highcroft campus of Blake. And after Blake, I ended up attending Macalester College, and then I went to graduate school at the University of St. Thomas and St. Catherine's University in a joint program. And I'm currently a social worker.
Hey everybody, my name is Will Kabak. I graduated from Blake in 2016, and this past spring I graduated from Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, upstate New York. I graduated from Hamilton with a degree in public policy and a minor in theater, and right now I'm working as a field organizer for the Anthony Brindisi campaign. He's a congressman from upstate New York, running for re-election to the US House of Representatives. Great to see everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Marmette. I graduated from Blake in 2019, so just 2 years ago. I'm currently a sophomore at the University of Michigan, and I'm living in Ann Arbor right now. And I am currently studying the program in the environment is the name of my major, which is essentially environmental studies, and concentrating in sustainable business development, and hoping to minor in complex systems and entrepreneurship as well.
Okay, thank you everyone. Great introductions. As I said, I'm going to spend just a few minutes at the moment or right now to give you a broad overview of Blake so that we can then dive into the meat of the presentation, hearing from our alums about their life after Blake. So, as most of you know, Blake offers a well-rounded education grounded in shared values of respect, love of learning, integrity, courage, and a commitment to pluralism. Those are core values of our mission statement. In general, Blake is certainly known for having excellent academics. Blake has a reputation of having the strongest academic program in the state, well-deserved. A comprehensive arts program where kids are involved in visual, music and performing arts from lower school through middle school into high school. It's not an extra at Blake, it's part of the critical part of the experience. Also, Blake offers outstanding athletics. It'll be interesting to hear from our alums if they participate in our athletic program. We offer physical education from pre-K through grade 8 in the middle school, and interscholastic athletics from grade 7 through grade 12. Along with that, diverse and multiple opportunities outside the classroom in clubs and activities. And our panelists can certainly share with you today how they were involved at Blake outside the classroom. Blake, I think everyone knows, has 3 campuses. Our upper school for grades 9 through 12 is in Minneapolis. Our middle school is on our campus in Hopkins. And we have 2 lower school campuses, one in Hopkins, which shares the campus with our middle school, and a standalone pre-K through 5 lower school in Wayzata. Currently have 1,353 students. So that seems like a large school for an independent school, but remember those are spread over 14 grades. So really a small school community from the student experience, and about 350 faculty and staff. Families and students tend to be attracted to Blake because of our excellent faculty and small classes. So 75% of our faculty members have advanced degrees, a master's or doctorate, and our classes are really small. So in the lower school, they average 18 to 20. In our middle school, our average class size is 16, some much smaller than that, maximum class size of 18. Certainly would be great to hear from our panelists about their experience in Blake classes while they were students. Our commitment to pluralism is unmatched, really a cornerstone of the student and faculty and parent experience at Blake. We measure our diversity in lots of ways. A few are mentioned here. More than 50 languages spoken in Blake homes. 24% of our students receive need-based financial assistance. 36% of our students identify as people of color. And we attract students from over 60 cities and towns throughout Minnesota in a given year. And certainly one of the experiences that certainly our upper school students have, but this goes through the middle and lower school as well, is just a purpose of educating students to succeed in a globally interconnected world. And this comes to life in lots of different ways at Blake. One of them is service learning. Our kids and faculty are involved in more than 40 local community organizations who partner with us on service projects. And as Diane can explain in more detail, over the past half decade, we've developed this incredible learning experience, credit-bearing travel global immersion experience, where students over the summer and some trips on spring break as well, get to travel, and not just as tourists, but to really live and learn about that part of the world. And finally, of course, our students are well-rounded in lots of ways. We want to highlight the arts and athletics. We offer more than 45 concerts and drama productions in a given year from lower school, middle school, and upper school, and more than 83% of our upper school students participate in athletics. Finally, sort of leading into our conversation about life after Blake, we want to highlight our college guidance and placement office. The Blake philosophy on college guidance is that college is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. Again, we'll be interested to hear our alums talk about that as they went through their college search and college choice. Our kids, we're in the middle of the country, so Blake graduates tend to go east, west, and stay central. So really a wide variety of colleges and universities our graduates attend. This list here just shows over the past 4 years, these are the top 15 choices that our graduates are attending now. Okay, so now I'm handing it off to Diane, who's going to ask our panelists to talk in more detail about their experience both at Blake and life after Blake, and then we'll head into the question and answer session. So Diane, over to you.
Great, thank you, Joe. One thing that I will share is I'm also an alum class of '88, and I also have 2 children attending this school, so I'm a parent. I'm also a teacher, administrator, and coach. And over the last 23 years, I've worked with numerous Blake students, among them the 4 students or 4 young adults you will hear from today. It's so very fulfilling being a part of the Blake community and working with such promising, integritous young people. And then also, when you're around for a while, you get to see what they do beyond high school. Of course, we pride ourselves as an academic preparatory institution, preparing students to perform well in college. But even more so, we pride ourselves as developing responsible world citizens. So some of our alum will share a little bit about the preparation they felt for college and also the preparation they felt beyond college. I'd like to start with Zach, who is presently attending University of Michigan. Zach, if you could just a little bit share about your academic preparation, how well you felt prepared to engage at University of Michigan. If you could share a little bit about maybe any memories about particular teachers, moments, classes that had a significant impact or effect, even as it may be is related to your choice of college major. And finally, if you could share how many years you attended the Blake School and any additional positive consequences of that experience.
Yeah, so I actually was a lifer at Blake. I started at Blake in pre-K, so full-on lifer. And that definitely had a lot of positive consequences for me going into college. I mean, I can think about just different ways that Blake really set me up to thrive independently in college. I think, especially going to such a big school, I was a little worried that I would be kind of get caught up in all that was going on, not really have a lot of places to get a foothold college. And I think Blake, like the rigor of Blake really prepared me very well to succeed in that environment where I really came in having strong study skills, having a strong work ethic, really knowing how to make connections with teachers and reach out for help. Those are skills that I definitely got, especially in high school, that I found really applicable to college. Some specific experiences in classes, I remember actually taking physics with Mr. Kabak, Will's dad. And that was one of the hardest classes for me at least in high school. And I just remember the hours spent outside of class, working with Mr. Kabak during the set aside times to meet with teachers at school, even outside of school, meeting at like a Noodles and Company locally. Mr. Kabak was great with making a lot of extra time for his students and just finding those opportunities that teachers offer and kind of taking up on that and going and seeking out the help you need is definitely something that Blake both offers. And that's a skill that I certainly carried with me into college. And learning how to put in that extra work outside of class is really helpful. It's probably the most important skill that I applied, at least early on in my freshman year. And yeah, I mean, I think in general, Blake really taught me a love of learning that I've carried with me into college. Whenever the course guide comes out, I get very excited for next semester. I read through all the classes. I make this big list of classes I'm interested in taking. And they're always in all these different fields, not just environment, which is my major. And I think that's really a result of me just becoming passionate about learning new things from Blake.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. I do often like to say that Blake likes to develop generalists instead of specialists. And we could even see by the list of activities and academic programs that our alums are engaging in at their colleges, how wide are their interests. And leading to Cameron Downey, who is an artist, an athlete, and an academic. She was recognized a number of times here at the Blake School for being a leader in those areas. Cameron, I'd like to hear from you about how you feel your preparation at Blake suited you for Columbia University. And if you could also share a little bit about your experience with athletics and how you might have felt prepared to compete at the post-secondary level.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going off of what Zach said, the support systems and just you know, you can feel when you're in the room with a teacher who loves what they're doing and who knows what they're doing and is willing to help you in any way. So that's kind of, I don't know that it spoiled me, but it kind of made me expect that as I moved on to university. And, you know, Columbia is not nearly as big as University of Michigan, but it is still, when you're in the real world, I suppose, or when you're in a larger setting, it makes all the difference to kind of have that optimism that there are people at this university that you can find and that you have to find, that will make your experience all the better. So I think that's something that I've definitely carried with me. And then I guess kind of what Diane was saying, thank you for the warm, kind introduction. I feel honored to be remembered in such lights. But Blake kind of allowed me and made the space for me to be able to like pursue the different fields necessarily, or like disciplines that I wanted to explore. So for example, I think it was freshman or sophomore year, a teacher told me about a poetry competition, and I was like, oh, I mean, it was actually required in one of my freshman English classes with Mrs. Benozilio. And what I got to do basically was kind of keep moving into that and like receive practice help from other teachers to compete on the state level and then even the national level. And it's something that I don't think I could have ever expected, you know, at the beginning of that year, but I think it's a really valuable tool to know that you can come across something that could be really important for you and then also have the support to pursue that to the highest degree that you want to do. And I think that's also applicable to sports, right? So I was lucky to have an amazing coach. I do the throws in the track and field domain. So it's kind of a specialized, I'd say, underrated area of sportsmanship. But my coach, Andy Dreswicki, was like there for every year since 7th grade, and we just had a really great relationship. And I think he cared so much about all of us. Whenever we PR'd at a meet, he would bring us pie the next day, which I think is a little counterintuitive to the whole idea of sports, but it presented like major benefits, I think, for my athletic development. Contrary to popular opinion. So that was awesome. And yeah, I just say that Blake pushed me to be busy and to like be proud of being busy in some ways, because all the things that I was pursuing were things that I had the chance to grow a love and adoration and like skill for that I keep doing to this day. And I think it's given me the confidence to keep going on whatever route that I want to go, regardless of whether it's like the pragmatic route or not. So
Awesome, Cameron. So good to see you.
likewise.
And Will Quebec, congratulations are in order for your recent graduation from Hamilton. I actually get to see Will a little bit when he's back in town, as we both enjoy a love for basketball. As I've gotten older, Will's gotten better, it seems. So now I get to assist Will on the court. But Will, I'd love to hear from you, as you've had few more years to reflect on your Blake experience and how it has prepared you for Hamilton and now for life as a young professional.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. So I would definitely echo everything that's already been said. Especially, I think the point Cam had before about feeling a little spoiled to have had a Blake education. That became especially apparent to me once I got to college and arrived at Hamilton. Hamilton is a school that places an emphasis on writing and public speaking. So every class you take there incorporates some element of both of those things into the curriculum. And right off the bat, when I would talk to my peers at Hamilton and talk to other people who were trying to kind of get adjusted to that emphasis on writing and public speaking, it was really apparent to me that Blake had prepared me well, especially in the writing domain. I think I was able to really hit the ground running with my writing and make some big improvements right off the bat because I had some really strong fundamentals as a result of my Blake education. And I would say that's both upper school, middle school, lower school. I came to Blake when I was in 3rd grade. So I was almost a lifer, but really, I think, benefited all the way through. I would also say that at Blake, I was somebody who liked to kind of get involved in a lot of different areas. So I was involved in theater, I was involved in the newspaper, I was involved with sports. I played basketball and baseball. I like to think of myself as somebody who tried to get my foot in as many doors as I could. And that was something that was also beneficial for me coming into college, because I think a lot of students came in thinking they needed to specialize as soon as they got there, know what major they were going to have, know the one activity that they were going to focus on. But for me, coming from Blake, I knew, it was okay to try different things. It was okay to try to find, maybe one or two or three things that I wanted to spend my time doing while I was at college. So in terms of preparation, I honestly felt like I couldn't have been more prepared, especially relative to my peers who weren't fortunate to have as much as Blake offered in their high schools. So that was a great thing for me. And then afterwards, I think looking back, especially on my time in the upper school, thinking about classes like world cultures with Mr. Graham, literature with Miss Benazilio, I know Cam gave her a shout out to, even theater with Diane Landis, all of those kind of have informed what I've looked to do, both in terms of my major at school and now what I'm pursuing afterwards. Those classes really inspired in me an interest in writing and in kind of forming thoughts and being able to put them out there, but also in public service and in politics and current events. That's something that I've remained focused on throughout college and obviously into right now. So I definitely think of Blake as like the jumping off point for me in terms of like the beginning of formulating my interests and formulating my thoughts about my career and exploring different careers. So I would just say overall, just extremely grateful and fortunate to have been at Blake.
Thank you so much, Will. So great to hear that perspective. So many of us who attended Blake were offered this opportunity to get our hands dirty in many different realms and to learn about ourselves through those experiences, develop new skills, and to even potentially find new pathways for our development. In addition to the college prep aspect of the school, recently we undertook a professional development with a parenting expert by the name of Ken Ginsberg. And he talked with us about raising healthy 35-year-olds. How do we as a school not just think about the 16, 17, 18-year-olds in front of us and preparing them for the next step, but what do we do here as a school to prepare healthy 35-year-olds, people who are out in the world, doing good things, and doing well for themselves? So we do have Katie Goldstein, class of 04, who's been away from Blake for a bit longer than the other alums, although she's returned as a parent. But I'd like to hear from Katie as far as how well do you think Blake prepared you to be a healthy 30-something-year-old?
I think Blake did a great job preparing me to be a healthy 30-something-year-old. In more ways, I actually think being 34, I now appreciate so much all that Blake did teach me and all that I did get out of my education at Blake. I started Blake in 6th grade, so a little bit later than some of the other panelists. But what I think is so wonderful about what I still take from Blake in my 30s is how to learn. Reflecting back, so much of what I have taken is not necessarily facts or memorizing things for exams, but the fact that Blake really taught me how to be a learner, how to look at information, how to get information, how to look at different perspectives, different sides, how to be intentional about where I get my information, what it means, how to be intentional about what I learn about. I now have an appreciation for how thoughtful the teaching staff and the faculty at Blake are about how they run their classes. Every teacher, no matter the subject I experienced, it wasn't just about learning math or science or English or whatever it had may be. It was, how do I read this textbook? How do I get the most important pieces of information from this? How do I look at these two sources and compare them? And how do I learn from history? How do I look at those sort of materials? And so I think that's the biggest thing that as a 30-year-old, I still so appreciate, and still remember and use those schools, even in graduate school and in my social work career. You know, so much about being a lifelong learner is staying up to date on things. Learning doesn't end when you leave high school or college. And so I think those skills have really stuck with me so that I can learn and grow even as I'm getting older.
Awesome, Katie. I'm wondering, Katie, I can share with you as a fellow alum that I developed even greater appreciation for the school as a parent. When I was able to observe my own children going through the Blake system and developing these incredible relationships with teachers and support professionals, I'm wondering, Katie, if you could share a little bit of what you've seen as a parent. I know you didn't attend Blake Lower School, but you have 2 children attending. And if you can share anything about your experience thus far as a parent.
I have just had a wonderful experience as a Blake parent. I see so many of the same things I experienced at Blake that my kids are now getting. I mean, for kind of an anecdotal example, Steve, my son, just got his first homework assignment this week as a first grader. So he has to learn how to do homework, basically, is the homework assignment. He is learning to read, and he came home and he was just like, I'm so excited. I have to find a cozy spot, and we have to turn off all electronics, and we have to take some deep breaths. And it was all these fundamental steps that as an adult you sort of take for granted that you can do naturally, that you forget that really little kids have to learn. And I just so appreciate that he's getting to learn those skills so young. And another thing that has been so wonderful as a Blake parent is Blake, I feel like not only is helping my kids learn and grow, they're also helping me still learn and grow as a parent. Even this morning, I attended a book discussion that is going to help me learn and help me be a better parent and help me be a better community member to the whole Blake community as an inclusive community. And so we've just had a phenomenal experience. My kids are excited to go to school every day. They are learning every day. They're coming home, you know, talking about, you know, a huge variety of subjects. And even considering this year, there have been so many changes in the lower school and just how it looks, how things run. I hear nothing about those changes. I only hear silly stories of teachers, or I got to do Spanish today, or engineering is next week. It's all excitement. They don't have any worries about the protocols and changes that have been made for their safety. It's just so much love of learning is happening in the lower school. It's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Zach, I was on the sidelines of a soccer game the other day talking to your dad about your experience at Michigan. I'm so glad to hear that things are going well and you're able to be in, is it Lansing or East Lansing? I forget. And attending some classes, or I guess mostly via Zoom. But I want to give you a chance to offer up any other thoughts that might have come up as you've listened to your fellow panelists speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think echoing what Cameron and Will said about the just about the encouragement of trying new things at Blake, and the idea of spreading it, spreading yourself out across a lot of different involvements, extracurriculars. I've definitely tried to do that here at Michigan. I've definitely taken, my love for ultimate frisbee, for example, which I got into in high school at Blake. I've gotten involved in that here. I've gotten involved in some outdoorsy clubs. I've gotten involved in some more engineering type clubs. And yeah, it's really just been great to know that I can kind of spread myself across a lot of different involvements. And that's definitely a result of encouragement from Blake. I would say that's the main thing I want to kind of follow up with.
Awesome. Cameron, just I'm going to recycle through one time just to see if there's any thoughts that were spurred by others. But if you wouldn't mind also just sharing a little bit about your college process, if you could share a little bit about how that occurred and how you landed at Columbia.
Yeah, absolutely. So just thinking back, also excuse there's a dog up in a distant place. So if you hear wooing, like that's all a part of the plan. But one of the things that really brought me back was the excitement and just joy of having different panelists kind of come into high school assemblies every now and again. So I remember a scientist came and talked about the redwood forest in California and about salamanders and about how these trees could live for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I don't remember all the specifics of the lecture or whatever it was, but I just remember feeling so utterly excited by that. And that in combination with the class I took with about the environment with Mr. Bazette, other than it being kind of like a classic second semester senior class where you journaled on trees once a week. The other part of it was engaging in this really ideological and pertinent discussion about what is our relationship to the earth supposed to look like? What could it look like? What shouldn't it look like? And I remember reading a book called The Sixth Extinction, and that just kind of setting me on this path towards wanting to pursue environmental science in some way, shape, or form. And not because of everything that I could learn about the environment, though that was one piece, but because of how I could engage with other people around these subjects and engage with like basically the future of our world through this kind of medium. So seeing learning as, I guess, what like Katie was kind of touching on, as something that's totally constant and totally in flux and iterative is one of the things that I would love to emphasize that I took away from my experience. And then when it came to looking for colleges, I think I actually kind of put it off a little bit until the last minute. I had happened to be working at an organization that was a nonprofit that took me to New York. And I was like, I love this city. I love everything about it. And one of my teachers was like, well, did you know there's a school in New York called Columbia? And this was like sophomore year, maybe junior year. And I was like, really? And it was from that point on that I kind of knew that I wanted to do that. And I wanted to keep doing athletics and keep like living in a way where I could learn at, on every block, which is what living in Manhattan in New York City is all about. And like taking on these opportunities at the last minute. And like I said, giving it your all, because that's life. That's what I've come to know as life as a 21-year-old. So but other than that, I mean, once I kind of had this idea in my mind, my college counselor, Mrs. Kyle, who's like the best, was fully supportive. And, it wasn't like she was like feeding me dreams. She told me, these are all the things that you're going to need. And this, we were pragmatic about it. Like a lot of schools have really low acceptance rates for the sake of having acceptance rates. But that's a different conversation. But, she said that if you love this, like you should go for it, and just made it, I think, the least stressful that it could be, which is saying something, I'd say, when it comes to applying to college. So I just felt super supported, and as though there was nothing that I was really missing out on when it came to preparing myself to apply for school. And then, after getting in, just feeling still supported and still as though, my work here isn't done. There's still a lot of learning to be had until I leave, Blake and leave Minneapolis.
Awesome. Thank you, Cameron. as has been pointed out, Zach pointed out the independence that is developed by students through their experience at Blake. And then Cameron also points out the great amount of support that students receive as they try to take on new, exciting experiences and endeavors. Will, anything you'd like to add before we see if there are any questions?
Yeah, sure. I think, looping back like others have done, I would say just one other thing I wanted to add is the friendships that I made at Blake have sustained me to this day. I have a great group of friends who I still talk to daily. We have, group chats. Sometimes we'll FaceTime or get on a Zoom together. And also during college, every time I would be home for winter break or spring break or whatever it was, I would always see so many different people from my class and from other class years. So the idea of like lifelong relationships and friendships that you cultivate at Blake is something that certainly was a lived experience for me. So I wanted to highlight that as well. On the college process, I think the college counseling department was awesome for me. I was somebody who ended up just applying to one school. I went early decision to Hamilton and was accepted. So I knew where I was headed kind of relatively earlier than some of my peers. But still, they were so accommodating. They were on top of it. I think the communication was really strong. And I know also just from talking to some of my other friends who applied to a lot of different schools and had a more like intensive college counseling process, that they came away from that thinking it was a really positive experience.
Excellent. Thank you so much also for talking about the friendships that you developed and these lifelong relationships. I can attest to the same. Now being 30 some odd years out of high school, some of my closest friends remain my high school friends. Joe and Heather, wondering if there's any questions from you or from anyone who would like to hear more.
Thank you, Diane. That was a terrific moderation. I mean, you can really tell about the relationships that adults at Blake develop with students. I mean, that was evident even over Zoom, sort of the closeness you have with kids and young adults who've gone through the Blake experience. So that was terrific. So now is the moment where we see if any of our attendees have specific questions that haven't been addressed or asked. If you want to bring those forward through the Q&A function, we're happy to answer those specific questions if you have any about the specific experience of our four panelists or moderator or Blake in general. We're happy to answer those as well. So let's give it a few seconds to see. Okay, so here's a question, Diane, and I'll toss it to you, and you can and toss it to other panelists. There was certainly some mention of the connection that Blake students have with their teachers while they're students here, but I think the question is about do Blake students maintain relationship with adults in the Blake community who had a specific impact on their experience? So I think that would be great to hear from one or more of our panelists. Was there a teacher or adult who you stayed connected with in an important way?
That's a great question. And one thing I can offer is that I actually organize a regular Blake basketball outing on Saturdays, Sundays, and Thursdays. And that is a good number of the folks who play are Blake alums. So it's just a beautiful way for me to remain connected to some young people that I knew as teenagers. It also helps me to keep in shape, of course, trying to keep up with young people that I knew as teenagers, Will Quebec being one of them. Any of you have a response to Joe's question as regards to faculty or coaches that you've remained in contact with, either as friends, support, mentors, models?
I can touch on that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, kind of a fun, so I am also married to a Blake alum from my same class, and he attended Blake his entire academic career. And through him, we've maintained a friendship with one of his lower school first grade teachers. She taught all of his siblings, and I've gotten to know her over the years as a friend. And then now actually she is my son's first grade teacher this year, which has been so funny. Now we can see that relationship developing between my son and her as well. And so I think that also touches on just how like faculty kind of stick around. Even when listening to my other panelists, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that name. That brings back this story. That's so awesome. And seeing Diane, I mean, he might not know this, but I remember going to his office and just kind of hanging out when you needed space, or just the upper school got too busy. And, I think even alumni who don't necessarily pick up the phone and call teachers they had, most of my peers from my class or around me, I mean, we talk very regularly about, we're thinking of this teacher, or we want to go to the holiday party because we want to see these people who have influenced our lives, and we want to tell them now that we're adults and we sort of are brave enough to do that.
I think that's a great response. There is often a lot of affection that is shared between folks, although it may not be a regular text or phone call in our busy worlds, but I know that the connections remain strong. Will, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say I have the unique perspective of my dad being a teacher at Blake. So I regularly get to see many of my teachers just because, he sees people and then I see them by extension. But also I would say definitely the teachers who I had, especially in the upper school, who I would say influenced me or motivated me or put me on kind of the path I took in college and afterwards. Those are people who I've also been able to remain connected to. I would say whenever I'm back in Minnesota, whenever I'm able to visit Blake, obviously this is pre-pandemic, but I always, went out of my way to see those people and to check in with them, and they did the same for me. I think it was definitely kind of a two-way street where both of us were interested in hearing about how the other was doing, hearing about where we're at in each other's lives, things like that. And that's just such a unique relationship, I think, to have with a teacher, and something that I, continue to be extremely grateful for to this day.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Diana, I think there are no other questions that have been posed, and we've been together for 45 minutes, which I think is just about what we planned. So really, I want to wrap up by doing a couple things. One, of course, and most importantly, thanking our panelists for not only giving up part of your Thursday afternoon, but really sharing your stories. I certainly learned a lot by listening. Was really, really struck by how genuine the comments were, and are really heartfelt, the experience, looking back on your Blake experience, how heartfelt that was. So thank you all for being part of this. It was great to see you, and for some of you to meet you for the first time over Zoom. I'm going to move on to our last slide, which is really just a wrap up. I want to make sure for our guests that we just touch on a couple of points before saying goodbye. So if you are a prospective family, we'll email you after this. If you haven't already created your Blake admissions portal, we'll email you a link. This is, as it says here, your one stop for all admission news, events, and most importantly, to start in on or finish up your application to Blake for next year. If you haven't yet, and maybe you weren't aware, but we are giving on-campus tours. We're doing it in a limited fashion. So we're touring for families seeking admission for next school year, for the 2021-22 school year. And for in the middle and upper school, we welcome parents to bring along their student. In the lower school, tours are for parents only. And you can do that by either calling me directly or going on to the Blake admissions portal and looking at our tour calendar and scheduling a tour for yourself. Again, if you are ready to start the application process or continue, that is done through the Blake admissions portal. You can see one click to sort of see where you are and what next steps might be. And finally, thank you, of course, for being at this event, but we certainly want to encourage you to do more. This is a special interest event. We've got more general, lower school, middle school, upper school, virtual events on Tuesdays of each week, other special interest events on Thursdays of each week, and our major fall events on 2 Saturdays coming up, October 31st and November 21st. So we certainly encourage you to sign up for more, to learn more. So that's it from us. Again, I want to say thanks to our panelists for being part of this. I want to say thanks to our attendees for being part of this as well. Everyone have a great Thursday afternoon. See you soon. Bye-bye.